Good morning and welcome to our webinar this morning on the COVID protection framework with Labor MP for Hutt South, Ginny Andersen. I'm Patrick McKibbin, I'm the CEO at the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce. We're really pleased to have the opportunity to bring you Labor MP for Hutt South, Ginny Andersen this morning, who will be talking us through the new COVID protection framework or traffic light system that began across New Zealand at 11:59 last night. Ginny is the Labor MP for Hutt South, which she assumed office in 2020 from National MP Chris Bishop. Ginny has been a Member of Parliament for Labor since 2017. Prior to taking office, she worked for the New Zealand Police as a policy unit manager after a successful career at the Office of the Treaty Settlements and as a private secretary and senior political advisor to several notable MPs. Ginny has made herself available this morning to talk through some of the detail of the framework and how it will potentially affect businesses across the Hutt Valley. We understand that changing levels, vaccine mandates and changing legislation has at times been difficult to navigate. So we hope that this session will provide some clarity around this latest change. Once Ginny has presented, I will put to her some of the questions that have been submitted, and Ginny will answer those questions and provide clarity on the questions. If you have any questions or need any support with information on the framework or have any other issues your business is facing, please reach out to us at the Chamber and we will do our best to facilitate answers to those questions and support you in any way we can. Thank you for watching, and I'll now hand over to Ginny, who's going to work through a presentation and then we'll answer some questions.
Thank you. Well, just a thank you to Patrick and a big thank you to the Chamber. You guys do an amazing job at supporting the business community through what has been an incredibly tough couple of years. Before I go through the PowerPoint that we've got to provide further detail on some of the areas that are covered by the traffic light framework, I guess I'd just like to acknowledge that it's been an incredibly tough year, the past year for businesses, and I know that people are tired. You know, people are, have had a lot to have to deal with, and rolling the system out has been hard in some places, but I guess the understanding is that it will give more freedom and more protection to enable our businesses to keep operating. And I guess to acknowledge too that New Zealand, comparatively to other places around the world, has done incredibly well when we look at our GDP, when we look at our employment rate, our unemployment rate, and how businesses have managed to hang in there during an incredibly tough time. So being able to be open, being able to give our community and customers reassurance that coming into business is safe is incredibly important. And this framework is critical for giving your customer base the reassurance that is safe at a time when we know that COVID is in New Zealand, and we could well see it in our region in the coming months. So being prepared and having people vaccinated and having a framework that encourages that is what this is about. So shall we roll? Right, so what I've got here is slides for kind of each sector, and it really breaks down what the opportunities are. So the big choices for businesses is really whether you need to opt in or opt out. That's the first question. So whether you require a My Vaccine Pass verification. So particularly for food and beverage, hospitality services, there is the choice there of either using a verification system or not. And when you opt into it, then there are far more benefits, or your business can operate without number limits, without that you are encouraged to wear face coverings, but you must cite each customer's My Vaccine Pass. And you're also able to use the Verifier app, which can be downloaded. So I guess I've been through this presentation, what I'll focus on is looking at the opt-in, opt-out, and particularly under orange, because that's what the Hutt has gone into as of this morning. So there'll be lots of questions, no doubt, in and around what do I have to do as a business owner to verify, to make sure I'm complying with these requirements? We've got a few questions in that already. So one of the things that we can address later is if you've got regular customers, are you having to verify them every single day? And the answer to that is no. You need to make a reasonable effort to be verifying people and to know it and to have that practice in place. And also, as I know, I'm in reasonably regular contact with local police, and the main way that the policing or the implementation of the system is largely from customers. I'll get people come to me and say, X business isn't doing what they should, or you'll get even competitive businesses talking to others. So it is initially largely an educational approach, and the onus is really on the business to comply as much as they possibly can, with a view of stepping that up if we have some standout businesses who are clearly not applying vaccine pass when they say they are. So yeah, that's probably it for that one. Is it all? Yeah.
Move on.
Next slide.
Hopefully we can move on.
Next slide. Yeah. Oh, there we go. So events and group activities. So here, really, all types of events, including professional and semi-professional sporting events, are sort of covered over this. And, this is the ones where you've seen, 660 can go ahead if they're under orange, which everyone's thrilled about. So you can have bigger events, and that's particularly affected Auckland over the past few months. So events include group activities where people don't know each other and will be in the same defined space. So gatherings are people who know each other. So that's a general difference there. Events and gatherings that do not ask for a My Vaccine Pass will be limited in size for all green, orange and red. So if you're not using it, you can run events under green, but it creates a limitation on what you can do. Events operating without a My Vaccine Pass can only operate at green, and attendance must be limited to 100. Attendees must be seated and separated if a food and drink is to be served. So if the bigger events are wanting to go ahead, a vaccine pass is the way to go. At orange and red, gatherings must be very limited if people have without a My Vaccine Pass attend, and that's got a cap of 50 people. And workers in these businesses are required to be vaccinated at both orange and red. Face masks for customers and staff at events are encouraged at orange and red, and where you've got food and drink being served, you'll need to follow the food and drink service rules, the same ones that apply. So again, the general principle is a strong encouragement to opt in to using Vaccine Pass, as that gives greater capacity, greater freedoms and higher numbers. Outdoor community gatherings, this one's pretty self-explanatory as well. So for the Hutt under orange, if you are using My Vaccine Pass, there's no capacity limit. You must cite each customer's My Vaccine Pass, and it says verify a reasonable number. So at least be having some being scanned. And speaking on that, so when you're verifying someone's My Vaccine Pass via a phone on the app, what it will bring up, if you haven't seen already, it will bring up their name and their date of birth. So, potentially embarrassing situations, I suppose. But if you've got someone who's clearly not that age and not that person, then that would be a good indicator. And then you can ask for, can I see your driver's license? That's perfectly fine to ask for an additional form of identification to see alongside of that. There have been quite a few questions around what if someone photocopies someone else's and tries to get in. There's no penalties on the business owner if you've made best endeavours to check. So it's not your fault if someone else is is trying it on by using forgery. Over to, police, if they're doing it repetitively and they're coming back, I'd encourage you to inform police and or WorkSafe. But there's no immediate penalties on the business owner if they're just being showed a false document that they're unaware of. And I know that's been a worry. So general retail rules. So because shops in general aren't close contact, so all of the rules that you're seeing greater detail on is really when you're seeing people sitting next to each other, eating food, sharing drinks, where there's people in close proximity, like gyms or nightclubs. So in places where you've got good social distancing, where people can go in, scan in, buy their food, buy their things and leave, then there's far less restrictions required. So for the Hutt, under orange, retail may open with capacity limits on 1 metre distancing, and that's not including workers. And again, face coverings are required. So you do need to do those. So specific retail rules, so this is all your basic services. So it's really important that, there are members of the community who have chosen not to be vaccinated, and those people still require the basic services. They need petrol, they need a pharmacy, supermarkets, food with dairies and convenience stores. So for that reason, that there's no way you can prevent people from having those basic things, because that would not be right. So in terms of that, worker vaccinations are required for health practitioners, such as pharmacists, and there's more information around that depending on your staff and what you're wanting your staff to do, and Employment New Zealand can give advice in that space as well. The general retail stores include clothing, agricultural supply stores, pet stores, hardware and DIY. So all of those general retail outlets are covered in that space. In the future, if we move to green, again, still you're not required to show a vaccine pass in those areas. So scanning in is still important, masks are still important, but there's no requirement for a vaccine pass, because every person has the basic rights to access those basic requirements they need for life. Post-contact services, so this is what I've touched on already. So anything you've got people kind of getting up close and personal with each other is where there's probably a lot more specification than what we've seen previously under the old alert level system. So it includes, but it's not limited to, barbers, beauty parlours, hairdressers, nail technicians, non-medical massage, so therapeutic massage, tattoo parlours, teeth whitening, all those sorts of personal services that you'll see. So in the Hutt, if you are using a vaccine pass, your business can operate. Face coverings are required for workers. You must cite all customers my vaccine pass, and have, on ability to verify a few if you need to. It's not requiring you to verify every single one, but you need to have capacity on site that you are checking if you think what you're seeing is not quite matching up with the person you're seeing. So if we move into green, then you've got pretty much, it's very similar to what we've got now. If you're not opting in, then it's quite important to note that this is the one area your business can't operate. So all of those ones that are up close and personal, a My Vaccine Pass is required in order for business to operate. Workplaces. So workplaces can be interpreted through its broad plain English meaning, but you can, also looks at retail, home services, social services, health, and also disability services. So workplace rules are pretty broad. Then workplaces include where work takes place off-site, and it can be in homes as well. So the restrictions are the same as if My Vaccine Pass verification is not used. So in general, workplaces can open, face coverings are encouraged in the workplace. So this is one really where you as the employer are encouraging your staff to be vaccinated as possible, and you'll get advice there through WorkSafe if you've got issues in particular with staff who don't want to be vaccinated and how you want to move forward with that. And that's it. That's all I've done. So that was pretty quick, but we can do some more specific questions that we've received.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you so much, Ginny. That's fantastic. That was a really awesome presentation, and I hope everybody watching will get some clarification on any questions that they had. But we do have a small number of questions that we're going to work through to provide a little bit more clarity on specific situations. And so the first question is from the owner of a limousine company, actually. So they've asked, when we see a client a few times during the same day for pickup and drop-offs, do we have to scan them on each trip for their COVID certificate on that day, or just once that day? And how are the records kept?
Well, I think, to go right to the there's a relevant part in the legislation that says a regulated business or service must have systems and processes in place to check that each person, including a worker who is at the premises, is carrying a CVC, unless you're 12 or under. And secondly, have systems and processes in place to verify so far as reasonably practicable, and compliance in relation to a reasonable number of those people. So if you've got Gary who gets in your limousine every single day, and you've scanned Gary the first time he's jumped in, you might want to check him every 2 or 3 weeks, maybe. That's for you to decide. But I guess that you need to demonstrate that you've got a verification process in place, that customers have been checked, and you've been reassured that you think they're okay. But that's really a call for the business owner, because you won't be wanting to annoy your customers by requiring someone every single day, particularly if they're being picked up 2 or 3 times. That's excessive. But at the same time, you need to be reasonably confident that those people who are using your service are verified.
Fantastic. Good. Thank you. And almost a different scenario, but if you have regular customers that come in either daily or a few times a week and are recognised by staff, do they have to be scanned every time? Just to clarify that.
That again, it's a call for the business owner. If you feel that gives a good level of reassurance for your business, you'd probably be wanting to do them at least once every while or so. Not every single time, but you want to be reassuring yourself that staff are aware. I know of one instance where there's, I think a pub, and I just used that example before when discussing that they've got their list of regulars and they've verified them all. And so the other bar staff know that they're their regulars and that they've been verified and the date that they were last verified. So again, you don't want to be frustrating or annoying your customers, but at the same time as the business owner, you want to be reassured that you're complying with legislation. So striking a good balance of making sure that there are verifying practices in place that are being used at a regular basis, but not to the point where customers won't be returning for a beer because they're tired of it. So striking a good balance.
Great.
Reasonably practical is what the legislation says.
Thanks, Jenny. So we're now going to move on to another question regarding the Pass Verifier, or the framework Pass Verifier. So why has the Pass Verifier not been linked to the contract tracing? We already get pushback on the contract tracing as a business. Is the question, and we're asking people to do 2 different scans. Is there a possibility, you think, in the future that the verifier that is registered to the business and the scans can be linked together, so that the process becomes a little bit easier?
This is a really fascinating one, and it comes into big players like Google and Apple. So the importance of the verifier of the COVID Tracer app is to maintain anonymousness.
Yeah.
So that's really important, that you can't be identified through your phone when you're scanning in. And so the problem with your vaccine pass is it's designed to do exactly the opposite, to identify you. So it would likely, if they were brought into the same thing, it would likely compromise the strong privacy stance that the app has at present. And particularly, I know for Google and Apple advised quite strongly that it was not possible to merge the two apps because it would breach their own privacy policies. So, as technology is emerging and as the system's being built, there'll always be room for more efficiencies. But the blunt answer is, one is built to specifically identify you, and the other is built particularly not to identify you. So merging the two would be at cross purposes.
Great. Okay. Good. With the situation of if someone was to use another person's pass to enter and is caught on at a vaccinated venue when they should not be, will the business owner be penalised in any way?
Yeah, and I touched on this before, but this is the question that I get the most. So the answer is that there's a graduated compliance model. They're going with a high trust model where initially businesses are encouraged to do the best they can, with an emphasis on education first. So if something's not happening quite right, or if customers or businesses aren't doing it quite the right way, there's opportunity to upgrade your compliance as we move through. As with any workplace requirements, it's a high trust model, but based on experience with our other alert level framework. Businesses, I think, can expect pretty strong feedback from not only their own customers, but from competitors if they're not following the rules. So we see that, I see that in the Hutt a lot. You get a lot of people will come to you saying that a certain business or a certain provider is not doing things quite the right way. At the end of the day, the framework is designed to keep people safe, and to keep businesses operating. And those two things are working at the same time. So if you're able to provide compliance, to give your customer base that reassurance, then that keeps your doors open and your customers coming. So I think, it's within everyone's best interests to be as compliant as possible. If you've got repeat offenders, there's one business that's continually not complying, yet still benefiting from saying they're using the Verifier app when they're not actually doing that, then I actually just called up the area commander of police and said, "What are you doing?" And that he reaffirmed what I understood was that they'd go in and have a chat and say, this doesn't seem quite right. WorkSafe can also be brought in to do a bit of an assessment to make sure things are complying. And then if it's a repeat over a period of time, then there will be repercussions. But it's a graduated system of hopefully a community approach of doing the best thing.
Right. Okay, thank you, Ginny. We've got one final question, which is, if you are a vaccinated venue, can you still have under 12s who are not eligible on at your business or on your site? Yeah,
yes. So 12's just exempt.
Right.
There's a straight exemption for not, because you can't be vaccinated. So obviously, if it's a pub, maybe not. But
not on their own anyway.
Yes. So that anyone who's under 12 doesn't need to be, because they can't get a vaccine.
Okay, fantastic. So any final words, Ginny, and then we'll wrap up, because that's all the questions we've got today.
Look, I would just like to say thank you to Hutt businesses. You've done an outstanding job at continuing to be open and continuing to keep at it after an incredibly hard year. I'm always, if you've got specific questions that I haven't answered, I will always work, any time of day to get you the answers back if you need to. So I'm happy to have my cell phone and email available to get back to you. And I'll do it personally. I'll call up and find out for you and get back to you if you've got particular circumstances, whether that's with your own staff and developing what you're going to be doing in your own workplace, in your own risk assessments, or if you've got customers that you don't know quite how to apply the rules to. In any of those circumstances, I'm more than happy to find out more.
That's fantastic. So thank you, Ginny. Thank you for taking the time today to speak to the Hutt business community via the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce. And thank you to all of our members that have viewed this this morning or this afternoon, and those that will view it online at our Facebook page and our LinkedIn page. We'll have it up this afternoon for anybody to view. So thank you, and thanks again, Ginny. It's been great to sit with you and clarify some of the questions that our businesses have had across the Hutt Valley. So thank you, and wish you all the best for the weekend.
Thank you, Patrick.